In just 48 hours, more than 190 tornadoes ripped through cities in the heart of America. Houses were leveled, cars were tossed through the air, huge storms covered the sky. It was one of the most terrifying weather events in recent history. For 4 days, the sky went black. In just 48 hours, hurricane-force winds left behind miles of debris and destroyed cities. So, how did this catastrophe begin? Why was it so powerful? And why was it so deadly? Here's a step-by-step look at how 190 tornadoes in 2 days tore America apart. You must watch this video. It all started with a small change in the sky. At first, it looked like an ordinary weather phenomenon, but high up in the atmosphere, things were quickly getting out of control. Dry, cold air from the north collided with hot, humid air rising from the south. The oxygen-laden air began to spin at ground level, but this was not yet a harbinger of something big. The real danger came when the jet streams kicked in. A jet stream, an invisible wind path in the atmosphere. If the conditions are right, these currents can create huge storms. On that day, it was aligned exactly as it should be. Hot, humid air was being pulled up, while cold air was pushing it down. The result? A huge air movement and uncontrollable power. On December 10th, 2021, 2 p.m., meteorologists noticed a growing storm mass on the screen, but no one could predict what would happen in the next 48 hours, because it would be one of the largest tornado outbreaks in modern history. As people went about their daily lives, they didn't even realize the impending disaster. It's 4:30 p.m. The first stirrings in the skies north of Arkansas. Hot air suddenly rose, air pressure dropped, and then the first tornado formed. This was no ordinary tornado. The wind speed reached 250 kilometers in seconds. It blew off roofs, lifted cars into the air, and destroyed everything in its path.
This is the scariest thing I've ever been in. Oh my god. Holy shit. I hope this stops. I just saw a car flip over in front of me. Holy shit.
And that was just the beginning. From Dakota to Tennessee, storm cells began to explode one after another. 7 p.m., Mayfield, Kentucky was the center of the storm. A huge tornado was moving toward the city. People were in a panic. The air sirens began to wail. But for some, it was too late.
I think it's gonna miss us. I've never seen anything like that. Whew.
9:30 p.m. The tornado hit Mayfield in full force. The sky turned completely black. The wind speed reached 300 kilometers. Even the steel structures couldn't withstand it.
Oh my God. Holy sh-
Within minutes, the city was wiped off the map. Power lines were severed, houses were destroyed, streets turned into rubble. The death toll was rising fast, and the disaster was just beginning. Throughout the night, the storm moved from west to east. 71 different tornadoes slammed into one city after another. But the real terror would return in just a few days. The first day was over. The tornadoes had stopped, the storm had dissipated, but only destruction remained. Towns were reduced to rubble. In Mayfield, there were no buildings left. In Kentucky, Arkansas, and Tennessee, roads were blocked and power lines downed. People who had lost their homes were searching for their belongings in the rubble. Rescue teams were trying to pull out those under the rubble, but no one knew that this disaster was not over yet. Weather forecasters had noticed something strange for some time. The atmosphere was moving again. Just a few days after the first storm, the jet streams had realigned and a new wave of energy was beginning to build. And this time, the situation was much more complicated. Fierce winds called derecho were also involved. Before people could recover from the shock of the first disaster, the second wave was upon them. And this time, it would affect more areas. December 15th, 2021. It was an ordinary day in western Kansas. People were wiping away the traces of the storm of days ago and getting back to their lives. But suddenly, the sky darkened. 13:45. The sun disappeared behind dense clouds. Within minutes, the wind picked up. This was no ordinary tornado. The instability of the atmosphere was so great that more than 120 tornadoes formed one after another in just a few hours. In western Kansas, the winds suddenly began to spin. First, there was a thin column reaching toward the ground. Then, within seconds, it became a massive tornado.
No way.
2 p.m. Several towns in eastern Kansas were wiped off the map in seconds. The tornadoes were growing in width, increasing in speed, and a second wave was forming in the sky.
Kijk dan. Kijk, hij raakt de grond bijna. Hij raakt bijna de grond. Kijk, hij raakt, kijk, daar gaat hij. Jezus, kijk dan. Daar is een tornadootje. Moet je zien. Wat de ja, een tornado.
Holy shit!
Wat de
Nee!
ja.
Oh, we zijn naar binnen ritsen! Oh! Oh nee! Oh! Wat erg!
What the f***? Wat heb ik? Violent tornado. Double tornadoes.
After the initial destruction in Kansas, the storm quickly shifted to Nebraska and Iowa. But here things were even more complicated, because this time it wasn't just tornadoes. Deadly winds called derecho, reaching up to 160 kilometers per hour, also came into play.
To the left. I don't think it's on the ground yet, but you can barely make it out. It's right there, right to the left of this hail core. It's a dangly bit on the left, it looks like.
Derecho is a huge air mass that moves with the storm.
That's the funnel.
It is so powerful that it can sometimes be as destructive as a hurricane. And on this day, it added an extra power of destruction to the chaos created by tornadoes.
Right in front of us. Oh my God. Wow.
Within minutes, the wind flattened fields. Walls of houses collapsed. Cars were lifted meters into the air. And just then, 12 tornadoes formed in Iowa at the same time. At this point, we were in the midst of one of the largest weather events in U.S. history. By the evening of December 15th, more than 120 tornadoes had leveled residential neighborhoods. In some areas, it was a hurricane. In others, it left cities without lights, without communication, and in complete chaos within seconds.
There's a roof coming up.
"71 tornadoes on the first day, more than 120 on the second day, and in total, 190 tornadoes. The toll of this catastrophe has been heavy. 96 people lost their lives, billions of dollars in damages were caused, and some towns were completely wiped off the map. This was one of the largest tornado outbreaks in modern history, and scientists warn such disasters could become more and more frequent. These situations are difficult to avoid. We are completely at the mercy of nature, but be careful. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy.